I the a-hole for being upset with my husband for planning to spend New Year's away from me and our kids? Okay, so this is going to be long, but I really need to know if I'm being crazy here. I, 30F, have been married to my husband, 32M, for 7 years, and we have 2 kids, ages 5 and 3. New Year's has always been a time for us to be together as a family. I cherish those moments when we can slow down and just enjoy each other's company after the chaos of the holidays. It's one of the few traditions we've kept consistent, despite the whirlwind of parenthood. This year, I was feeling motivated to clean out my husband's car. It's always a mess. He's the kind of person who just tosses receipts, wrappers, and random junk in there. I figured I'd finally tackle it since I had some time. As I'm going through the mess, I come across something unexpected, a flight ticket. At first, I thought it was old, but then I checked the details. It wasn't old at all. It was for New Year's Eve. Confused, I looked closer, thinking there had to be some explanation. That's when I realized it was a flight booked for him and only him. No mention of me or the kids. It wasn't a work trip. It was a trip with his friends. My stomach dropped. I felt a wave of shock and disbelief. I thought, why wouldn't he tell me something this big? At first, I tried to convince myself there was some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe he was planning a surprise for all of us. Maybe there was some perfectly logical explanation. But deep down, I knew what it was. He planned to leave for New Year's without telling me or involving me and the kids. I went straight to him and asked, why didn't you tell me you were going away? He looked surprised, like I'd caught him off guard. His response? I didn't think it was a big deal. I was going to surprise you. A surprise? At that point, I felt the rage bubbling up inside me. I said, you're leaving me and the kids on New Year's and didn't think it was a big deal to tell me? How is that a surprise? I couldn't hold back. I told him how hurt I was that he didn't think it was necessary to have a conversation with me before making such a huge decision. His defense? He said he needed a break, that he's been feeling burned out. And this was his way of doing something for himself. He even called me dramatic for being so upset. That was like pouring gasoline on a fire. I told him, I've been the one holding down the fort, planning every holiday detail, taking care of the kids, and you didn't even have the decency to discuss this with me? You just thought it'd be fine to leave me alone with the kids while you go off and have fun? I couldn't stop. I was so furious I said something I regret now. Maybe we should just call it quits if you can't see how selfish this is. I didn't mean it, but in that moment I felt blindsided and disrespected. It felt like he made this huge decision that directly impacts me and the kids, but he left me completely out of it. Since then, he's been apologizing nonstop. He said he didn't mean to hurt me and that he only wanted a break, not to make me feel unimportant. But the damage is done. I feel betrayed. It's not just about the trip anymore. It's about what it symbolizes. He chose to prioritize himself and his friends over our family tradition, over me, and over our kids. I understand needing a break, but why New Year's? Why not talk to me about it so we could figure out a way to make it work without blindsiding me? We're supposed to be a team. It feels like he broke that trust by making this decision unilaterally. Now I'm stuck questioning everything. Was I wrong to blow up at him? Should I have been more understanding of his need for a break? Or is this the kind of thing any reasonable person would get upset about? I know marriage takes work, and I want to believe we can get past this. But right now, I'm just hurt and struggling to let go of the fact that he chose to spend New Year's without us. So, am I the a-hole for going off at him like that, or am I being too sensitive? Should I just suck it up and let him have his trip?
Am I the a-hole for taking everything that's mine when my roommate asked me to move out? I, 21M, moved into an apartment with my roommate, 21F, about 5 months ago. We're friends, and she was the one who found the place and asked me to move in. I signed the lease alongside her, and everything seemed fine at first. I was respectful as a roommate. I did my share of the chores, paid my half of the rent and utilities on time, and kept things clean. From my perspective, there wasn't any tension between us at all. Then, out of nowhere, she texted me one day while I was out and said we needed to talk. When I got home, she sat me down and told me she wanted me to move out. Her reasoning? She just didn't feel like she wanted to continue living with me. She had already spoken to the landlord and set a move-out date for January 1st. I was completely blindsided. I asked if I had done something wrong, but she didn't really give me a clear answer. She just said she thought this arrangement wasn't working out for her anymore. While I was shocked and hurt, I decided not to argue. If she didn't want me there, I wasn't going to stay somewhere I wasn't wanted. I immediately started looking for another place to live. As I was packing and making plans to move, I realized something. Almost everything in the apartment was mine. I had paid for most of the furniture, including the couch and TV. The plates, silverware, router for the Wi-Fi, which I also paid for, and other household items were all bought by me. I told her up front that I would be taking all my belongings when I moved out, and she agreed without any pushback. I even reminded her several times to make sure she understood. On moving day, I rented a truck and loaded up all my stuff while she was out. When she came home and found the apartment nearly empty, she freaked out. She started texting and calling me, saying I shouldn't have taken everything, and that I left the place looking awful. She also complained about how she would explain this to her friends. I calmly reminded her that I had told her I was taking what I bought and that she had agreed. She hung up on me but later started venting to our mutual friends. Some of them think I'm an a-hole for leaving her in a bare apartment, while others are on my side, saying I had every right to take my belongings. For what it's worth, I didn't leave her completely stranded. I left the mini fridge, though I did take the liquor that was inside it. I feel like I was more than fair, considering the situation. So, am I the a-hole for taking everything that was mine when my roommate asked me to move out?
Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's new wife I don't want to be her daughter? My dad got remarried in June. For most of my life, it was just the two of us after my mom passed away when I was 5. Growing up, I was very close to him and we had a strong bond. About 3 years ago, he met Cass and they started dating. They fell head over heels for each other, which made me happy for him. But I didn't see it as gaining another parent. For me, it was about him finding a life partner for his future. 2 years ago, I met Cass and her 3 sons, 10, 8, and 7. We got along fine, but I never felt a deep connection with her. She's nice enough, and I appreciate how much she loves my dad, but I didn't feel like I needed a new mom or siblings. It just felt like we were blending families, not forging deep new parent-child relationships. When they started planning the wedding, Cass expressed that she really wanted me to be her maid of honor. She said it was important to her because she viewed me as her daughter and wanted me to have a special role in the wedding. I wasn't comfortable with that idea. I talked to my dad and told him that I wanted to be his best person instead. He asked if I was sure, and I told him I absolutely was. He's my dad, and it felt more natural to stand by him on his big day. He agreed and told Cass about my decision. She tried to change my mind a few times, saying it would mean a lot to her, but I stood my ground. It wasn't terrible, but it was uncomfortable. After the wedding, things got more awkward. At the reception, Cass wanted me to pose for a picture with her and her mom, saying she wanted a photo with her mom and daughter. I was caught off guard and told her I didn't feel comfortable because I wasn't her daughter. She seemed genuinely hurt and blindsided by my response. A few days later, she sat me down to talk about it. She explained how much she had been looking forward to having a daughter after raising only boys, and how crushed she was by my comment. My dad overheard the conversation and interrupted, so it ended there, but the whole situation left me feeling uneasy. Since then, she's made several attempts to create a mother-daughter dynamic, even though I've been clear that I'm not interested. For Halloween, she bought us matching mother-daughter costumes, even though I already had a costume picked out. In her home office, she has a frame that says "Mommy's Girl" with a picture of me in it. It makes me uncomfortable because I don't feel that way about her, and it feels like she's trying to force a relationship I don't want. Just before Christmas, she confronted me about being distant. She said she really wants me to treat her like a mom and that she dreams of having a daughter. I told her, as gently as I could, that I don't want a new mom and don't see her that way. I explained that I appreciate her for making my dad happy and that I'm open to being friends, but I don't want a mother-daughter relationship. She got really upset and accused me of crushing her dreams without giving her a fair chance to be a good mom to me. She said I was being unfair and that she's doing everything she can to build a bond with me. She even brought up how much it hurt her that I wasn't her maid of honor at the wedding. I don't think I've done anything wrong. I've been clear about my feelings from the start, but now I'm questioning if I could have handled things differently. So, am I the a-hole? Next story. Am I the a-hole for confronting my guest at the doorway after she insulted my cooking in front of everyone? Last night, I hosted a dinner at my house for a few close friends and family members. I've been experimenting with new recipes recently and thought it would be fun to showcase what I've been working on. The menu included a homemade pasta dish, roasted vegetables, and a special dessert that I was particularly proud of. I spent hours planning and cooking, making sure everything was just right. Throughout the evening, things seemed to be going well. The food was received with smiles, and people were enjoying themselves. The conversation flowed, and I felt like I had pulled off a successful night. It wasn't until the end of the evening, as people were starting to leave, that things took a turn. Tanya, 34F, a friend I've known for a while, was the last to leave. She had already made a quick comment earlier about how nice the evening was, but as she stood at the doorway, she dropped a bombshell. She said, "The food was okay, but honestly, I don't think I'll be back for dinner if you're cooking again." It's just not really my thing, you know? I was stunned. I wasn't expecting everyone to rave about the food. I know tastes differ. But her comment felt unnecessary and rude, especially since there were still a couple of guests lingering nearby who overheard it. I'd worked hard on the meal and poured a lot of effort into making it a nice evening for everyone. Her dismissive remark made me feel embarrassed and hurt. I told her, calmly at first, that if she didn't like the food, she didn't need to say it so bluntly, especially in front of others. She laughed it off, calling me dramatic, which only made things worse. I explained that it's not okay to insult someone's effort like that, particularly when they've gone out of their way to host. She seemed annoyed and said I was overreacting, claiming it was just her opinion and not meant to be personal. I didn't raise my voice or make a huge scene, but I was firm in letting her know how hurtful her comment was. She left shortly after, but since then, a couple of mutual friends have told me I was wrong to confront her and that I made a big deal out of nothing. Still, I can't shake the feeling that her comment was completely uncalled for. It wasn't constructive criticism. It felt like a dig, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect basic courtesy when someone has invited you into their home. So, am I the a-hole for calling her out at the doorway, or should I have just let it go?